All right, we're live, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. I have two very special guests on tonight, both members of the Green Party. Alexandria Keating-Sofiakis is a Lake County member of the Green Party and is planning on running for office in a couple of years here. And we had her on I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that, right?
Yeah,
Ish.
about a month and a half.
Yeah, which was a lovely conversation. We have Edie Arndell, who is also an Illinois Green Party member. She's way down south in Illinois, right where you're in like super south, right?
Carbondale, no.
That's pretty. Yeah. So okay,
There's
cool.
There's a lot further south than me. Just saying.
There
It's
is a
all
lot.
relative.
It is all relative. Geography is relative. So, all right. Anyway, so we were going to talk about the Green Party's 10 key values, and now if I could just kick off the conversation real quick. When I first joined the Green Party a little over 4 years ago, that was, as you were just saying, Alexandria. Like I remember, like looking at it, I was just like, check, 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 check. Like I just agreed with everything. Like, this is fabulous. And so, and not just on a personal note, but like objectively or generally speaking, like as far as I can tell, I haven't researched every single political party in the country, but it's the only one I've ever seen that actually has stated values. Like this is what guides our decisions. These kind of things. I mean, you ask 10 Democrats, what being a Democrat is, you probably get 8 to 10 different answers. Say Republicans, who knows, they're just crazy. Yeah. So okay, let's kick it off, Edie, because you had a couple that you wanted to focus on. Let's just start with you. Go ahead and pick one, and let's get going.
Okay. Well, we'll start at the top. That's as far as I've gotten. The first couple. I kind of see them as all interconnected.
Sure.
So the first one is about grassroots democracy, citizens being directly involved in decision making, and improved public participation, and big one, government accountability. And here's where it kind of slips off the rails. If anybody's been watching the fires in California, there is no accountability for them selling it to a billionaire couple, the Resnicks. They have like 60% of their water reservoirs to make money. And when California goes through a drought, if you've never lived there, they're always in a drought. The public has to buy it from private industry because they can't get it from the state.
Wow.
And that is that
water.
Yeah, you need it to live. And that is to grow the wonderful pistachios, the pomegranates, all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're billionaires, right? And then the accountability comes in. The fire hydrants were dry, so the firefighters couldn't do anything because the government set it off.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's my first one.
Yeah,
anybody
that's
got
a good
anything
one.
with that?
Alexandria, did you want to chime in there?
No, I was just nodding up, and yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. It's audacious, and just the level and degree of gall that 60% of any area's water supply would be privately owned. And especially California has wildfires every single year. Every year.
Yeah.
Now this is the worst of the worst of the worst. There's no doubt. A lot of it had to do with the 100-mile-per-hour winds. Met like a small fire, and then boom, that's it. It's over. But to deny people the right to the access to just a basic human resource, natural resource like water, is it's despicable. I mean, it's not. It's about as immoral as one can get. And grassroots democracy would tie into that, because like if the people actually decided that on something like that with a referendum or however else, there's no way that they say that's okay.
It was done in a backroom deal. Public officials got in there with landowners and companies, and just like, we're just going to do this. Nobody voted on it. No taxpayer. No public citizen input. It was just done behind closed doors. And the thing that happened, I think it was 1994. I wrote it down because I can't remember anything. 1994, they rewrote the rules. The Monterey Plus agreement. I'm just learning about this today on Sabby Sabs, because she's fabulous. That forced regular Californians to buy water because they weren't going to get it from the state. They overturned the urban preference rule. Like during drought, it would go to where the most people are. Well, they overturned that behind closed doors.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
we could talk an hour just about that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And water management, I mean, we have so many international examples too. I mean, thinking back to, I keep up on Greek news, what's going on in Greece and stuff. And one of the big difference you could tell between the islands that are getting racked by wildfires and the ones that aren't, are that all the ones that are the ones with the big resorts. Wow, I wonder where all the water's going.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so it's shocking because not only are we even within America, but internationally, there's just so many countless examples, and nobody in power learned the lesson when there's so much obvious evidence. It's embarrassing and
Definitely embarrassing.
damning.
Damning is a good word. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna interject. They also cut the firefighters' budget $17 million, and they've been crying for 3 years to increase their budget. The fires have increased by 55%, and they're trying to handle it with less people and apparently no water.
Wow, even Greece didn't do that.
They gave it to the police.
They had a lot of bankruptcy going on, so they could have had a good excuse for it.
Yeah, Greece had a big kind of financial something, like about a decade ago, maybe, right?
Yeah, 2004, and the significant sort of normalization, quote unquote, didn't really happen until I would say 2015, 2016, roughly.
Yeah, that's all these. That's the thing, though. Like speaking to what you're talking about now is like all these like privatized systems are just remarkably unsustainable. They don't do what I think that people think they're going to do. Privatization of certain markets or certain types of industries is probably a good idea with certain types. Natural resources is not one of them. Okay. And mostly because
exactly.
and fundamentally because it's a right. Like you have a right to water and food and anything else in nature, really. One of my favorite sayings, and I have a bumper sticker, says nobody owns nature. Like this whole idea, like the privatization of the world, the planet. Like this is my mountain range. Like no, it's not. You tell me, did you build it? Then it's not yours. The only thing that makes it yours is the guns that keeps people away, and that's not reasonable. Anyway, so
and the money that exchanges hands that says, okay, now you can own that.
Right. Yeah.
Because they allowed it to happen, and that also ties into the social justice aspect. Benefit equally from resources in society. So number 2. Wow.
Number 2.
That's about as far as I got.
I don't know which number it was exactly, but I know decentralization. I really liked that, and that's tying very much into what we're talking about right now. I mean, just everything with the wildfires, and we could go way beyond that, even just sort of democratic power generally, workplace rights. I mean, people getting good wages, stuff like that. Somewhat ironically, if you were to give people, like everybody, basic housing and water and stuff like that, if you're a staunch capitalist, you'd be rolling in dough because guess what? Those people are going to be spending all that money on video games and art and stuff instead. And that's going to boost your economy. Imagine how much healthier of an economy in a capitalist society you could have if everybody's getting to spend all their money on art and whatever they want to compete over, whoever wants to have a cooler car or whatever, rather than trying to live.
I agree. I think about that. I think about that a lot. It is groundbreaking. If you just really sort of just provide the basics for everybody, that frees them up to advance in other areas of the human condition, artistically, scientifically, mathematics or whatever, engineering, all sorts of cool stuff. But people are scraping by and trying to just live. You've actually suppressed your economic output. 100% you have. Yeah, no, it's totally true. This is why certain types of socialism are just a better idea. But okay. And I just want to say there are a multitude of different types of socialism out there. Everybody thinks that socialism merely means the central government, the federal government controls everything. That's one version. When the labor movement first started, there were dozens of different schools of socialist thought, if you will, and most of them were anarchists. Honestly, they didn't like government at all. They want the labor. If the laborers could control the means of production, you probably wouldn't need a government because they're already taking care of everything. That ties into where is it? Hold on. There's another one here. Where is it? Well, decentralization. Well, that's it. That's the one. And also, but there was another one. Where is it? Why am I skipping through here? Community-based economics.
I just wanted to comment that they don't want us to have that ability, because a well-educated, happy, free people are harder to control.
That's right. That's actually somebody's quote,
if
isn't
they
it?
can make it to where we have to choose between living and being free, most people choose to live, and that's kind of where we're headed, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no freedom without life.
Sorry to be Debbie Downer.
No, you're fine. You're going to send me in a whole lecture ranting about Brad Schneider's thing again, where he voted with the basically the new McCarthyism bill, where everybody's got to learn about I forgot what the group exactly. Oh, Victims of Communism Foundation or something like that, and they're funded by the Koch brothers, of course. So, and Brad Schneider voted for it. So now the kids get to spend time learning from a guy that thinks Kamala Harris is a communist, what communism apparently is. I'm sure that's going to really help Americans in the international workforce. I'm sure that's going to help our students be competitive. And I bet that's just going to be great for our teachers and economy in general. What a smart idea.
I'm going to have to look that up. I hadn't heard about that. And I know somebody who actually knows Brad Schneider. So there's a good chance I'm going to have him on this show, because this is his district.
Yeah. I've been keeping up to date with every vote he's been having. That, and he also voted for the sanctioning the ICC with that vote. But that I expected him to, because he's one of the most vehement Zionists in the Democratic. I would argue the most vehement in the Democratic Party, but I haven't thoroughly researched everybody, to be fair.
It's not a contest you want to win, is it?
Oh, yeah, let's not get into faith, because I was about to say I've been praying for good luck on that.
He actually lived in a kibbutz over in Israel for a while. Do you know what a kibbutz is?
Yes.
It's like a Jewish hippie commune, basically. So he lived there for a while. Then he's like the 35th or 40th richest person in Congress. Now, I guess that has to do with his wife, but he's loaded. This guy, he went from like being a propertyless hippie to being a bajillionaire.
Yeah. I saw that with his record going to Northwestern and being in business and stuff before getting into politics, the very typical route. Maybe not Northwestern specifically, but you know what I'm saying.
But how can those people serve us? They don't even understand what our life is. They are completely disconnected.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if we end up talking about flyers, one of my short flyers, I just give a little bit of, I understand your struggle more than Brad Schneider, because I know what it's like to have the water turned off because you can afford the bill. I know what it's like to have to wait because you can go through only like county health department because nobody else will take your insurance. I bet Brad Schneider does not know what that's like, because he's just so disconnected from that.
Or to have overdraft charges when you thought you had money, and then it sneaks in there.
Yeah.
And then oh crap, now I can't pay my whatever, my rent or my mortgage, my car payment, because I'm in the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. They're totally. I mean, these are like the financial elitists. I mean, Congress is filled with rich people, and then now we have an administration coming in. We're like, oh, they're all like bajillionaires too. And that's literally the definition of plutocracy. Is when the rich, class rules the rest. It's a modern day feudalism. It's ridiculous. Even Bernie Sanders, Mr. Democratic Socialist, he has like 3 houses. Don McCain was called out because he's like, how many houses do you have? I think 5. What do you mean you think? You don't know how many houses you I mean, it's such snobbery, it's just such eliteness. And
to own a house, even. I'm lucky. I actually own my house. I had to spend all of my retirement money to get it and leave California to get it. But I own one, and to own a house is kind of out of reach for most Americans now. Just to own one.
My whole generation and below, for most of us, most of my friends do not own their own houses. I obviously do not own my own house because I talk to you. So
I didn't.
So yeah,
I rented until I don't know.
Well, I stay with my family because my generation, a lot of us have never been able to buy our first house, and we're still waiting. And we've been working in the economy and working in assembly line jobs, working fast food, stereotypical blue collar work, and all those jobs go, and we still never got to get the house in the first place. So we're kind of double screwed now.
Yeah, no, it's getting. I think that bubble's going to burst again, probably soon. Just because, like you're saying, Alexandria, like it's just not affordable. Like hundreds of thousands. Like okay, for example, my family, my mother's side of the family, came here from Italy, literally from Italy, off the boat, in 1956. Bought a house in Alexandria. You might know this, Wilmette, Illinois, which is part of what's called the North Shore. It's a very, very rich area. But then it wasn't. They bought the house for like $17,000, sold it in the early 90s for like over 300,000. Like what kind of inflation is that? And a lot of it just throughout the history of real estate, you'll see it's just opportunism. People would sell houses for a higher price because they know that the potential buyer would pay it. That's it. Not because it was worth that much, just because so then all of a sudden that raises everyone else like, oh, we can do that too. And now here we are, a simple little house is, $350,000. That's insane.
Do you know what the average or the median price for San Diego is?
Oh, I can't even imagine. 500,000.
No, it's over 700, and that's when I checked it last year.
That's a median average. That's not even
the median.
That's not the lowest part. That's the highest. That's not the highest part. It's an average.
We had a super tiny house that we could have never paid off. We got it for $342. It was 675 square feet with no backyard.
My apartment in Portland was about that big.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yep, but it was in a good neighborhood.
Okay.
Very, very walkable, nice people, and we had to go get a dog because everybody had a dog. They're like, "Where's your dog?" No.
Where's your dog? It's weird. Why don't you know?
I can be walking down the street.
Are you communist? Yeah, like in what you were saying earlier, Alexandria, but people not voting for Harris because they thought she was a communist. I have a guy I work with who's very much a Trump guy, and he's one of the exceptions to the MAGA people I've met. Almost every one of them I've met have a certain set of characteristics that are very off-putting. He doesn't have any of those. He's a very gentle man. He's very, very nice, very kind, but he just has that Republican mentality that all Democrats are communists. And he's like, yeah, she's a communist. I'm like, do you know what that means? And again, he's like, oh yeah, government controlling everything. I'm like, no, that's not, no. First of all, she's not one. She's an avowed capitalist. But you don't know what that is, so you're going to vote fallaciously because you have a misunderstanding about things, which is another problem with American politics. But anyway.
And there's a whole irony with that. As someone who talks to people from all across the political spectrum of all, especially niche subgroups on both the left and the right, most self-identified communists were let me put it this way: they were actively against Harris, and if they hated either Trump or Harris more, for most of them, it was Harris. So for anybody who's saying, the Democrats are communists, then why are the communists, if any of them are supporting why are more communists supporting Trump than Harris? That doesn't make sense because that type of group that we're supporting that are typically, the tankies that are we want to vote Trump in to ruin America, that type of thing. But still, I'm saying more communists, if they were coming out and supporting anybody, it was Trump.
Exactly.
That's
a good point.
The nihilists, right?
Yeah, they're charming people. That's a good point. I'm gonna have to bring that up right now. Well, have you asked the communists what they think of the candidates? That's a good point.
Yeah. Have you asked people who vehemently say that they do hate America or that they do want it to fall? If you ask a lot of those people, if they vote for either of the major candidate, they will vote for Trump. They have to have fun justifying that, I guess.
And isn't communism just an economic system? That doesn't mean you hate America.
Yes.
America can be whatever the heck it wants to be. It's just
that was one of my big problems with the bill, is that they were saying one of the things was that all students had to be taught, going back to the Brad Schneider communism bill thing. He didn't fund it. I just affiliated with him because he voted for it. Is that the X amount of hundreds of millions of people died from the communist ideology. And I was like, from an academic lens, that makes no sense, because what do you define as dying from an ideology? Were the loyalists who killed in the American Revolution victims of a Republican ideology? Were indigenous Americans victims of the American democracy ideology? No, it was the militarism and the violence. It wasn't the ideology that killed them. And not only that, but to turn on the flip side, if we're talking direct people that were killed by either the Soviet Union or the United States, more people died from the United States. But that's not even a condemnation necessarily on capitalism. That's just an inevitability of the fact the United States was the bigger military power. It doesn't matter. It could have been a monarchy, a communism, whatever. If you're the biggest military power in the world, you're going to be committing the most crimes. It's inevitable.
Yes. Human history has testified to that over and over again. Yes.
Yeah.
We need a class that says how many people have been killed by capitalism.
Well, that's what I said. I hear people like Jordan Peterson and whomever up. Ben Shapiro, and I can't even listen to Candace Owen anymore. She's just dumb. But Yeah, they say, well, look at all the people killed by Stalin. I'm like, well, exactly. They were killed by Stalin. They weren't killed by communism or Marxism, you dummy. You think Marx would have been okay? If you know anything at all about Marx, you think you would have been okay with that? Are you serious? Okay.
Well, it's just not educated. Although Candace Owens did do a good interview from the one of the people that was on the USS Liberty. The USS Liberty was attacked by Israel, and they were told to shut up about it.
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah,
a ship.
Yeah. Oh, there's
naval ship.
Recently in this whole what's going on now.
I don't remember the year. Do you remember, Alex?
Trying to remember. No. But there's a channel that has a great discussion on it, and I can't remember the YouTube channel, but I want to recommend it. But I can't think of it right now.
Well, she interviewed the guy that was there.
Go ahead. What's that?
I said she interviewed the guy that was there.
I didn't see that, of course, but no, she's come out against the whole Israeli Gaza thing. She's sympathizing with Gaza. That's cool for sure, but there's just too many things she said, and over the time that I've listened to her that I can't handle it. But and Jordan Peterson, he's another one. Like he's a PhD in psychology, and I know some stuff about like Jungian psychology and stuff like that. He's extremely insightful and profound when it comes to that. But just like he's a climate change denier, and he literally interviewed like one scientist, and I'm like, really? You're trained in the scientific method, and this is how you come to your conclusions. I expect some dissent among scientists. Yeah, no. So anyway, but okay.
That channel is called Eyes Wide Open, by the way. Look it up on YouTube.
Oh, okay. For what? For USS Liberty?
Yeah. They do. They're the one with the USS Liberty video. I'm 95% sure. Okay. I haven't gone through all my subscriptions.
I have too many. I can't. What about? Okay, there's a couple I want to get to, but like, let's go to, because this is always a hot topic because it touches so many different areas here. But feminism and gender equity. Right. What do you think? Anyone?
Hold on. Let me quickly, because I am on my phone, reference which exact number that is.
Number 6. It's number
7.
Honestly,
I've been reading a bunch of things that makes me want to come at it from a very unique angle that isn't maybe universal, but I do think is compelling, which is that I've been reading a lot of Christian texts, early Christian texts, specifically some non-canonical texts, Gospel of Mary, Nag Hammadi Codex, and stuff like that. And it just, I'm sort of questioning myself on a religious perspective when it comes to where I am ideologically right now. But it just seems that a lot of church infrastructure was victimized by intentionally silencing people who had just as much validity to be part of the biblical canon, but ended up intentionally getting silenced. Yes. And like, as a Greek, especially when I look to when they were written, especially compared to when Jesus's life happened, the closer text to when he happened agree with the more pro-feminist ideology, and that your gender does not define your worth in society. Yes, God may have created people with unique gender features to be uniquely capable of doing more certain things, but the justification they gave, and I love this, was that they're trying to do this God was trying to do this as an empathy on humanity, rather than being God who has to be sort of the metaphorical father and mother, split that sort of work between us, but otherwise we're all equal. We're both gifted with minds and stuff like that. And so I found that very compelling and inspiring, but also kind of sad, because a lot of the people who are going to get the most angry, and when you even mention feminism or you make a female character the main leader, stuff like that, are going to be people who say they go to church every Sunday or claim to be very evangelical and stuff like that. And so it's very disappointing to know the hypocrisy and how deep it goes on a theological level too, not just a obvious moral level, which I think most people are exposed to when they have the debate, because it's a constant debate. I mean, it goes through laws, it goes through culture, it goes through policing. It really it affects everything.
Right.
It's not something I think a lot about. However, one angle that annoys me, I guess you would say, is my gender, a woman, being in a high place and acting like a man. Like, you have gifts that were given to you, which make you different than a man on purpose, and that's fine. Like, it just annoys me. Like, they try to be tough for like me, or that is the testosterone version of a guy, instead of just with the strengths that are inherent to women, which is very compassionate and caregiver and all that. Not saying that men aren't that. I'm talking about the perception of what America tries to tell us.
The trying to compensate to fit in type of deal.
Yeah,
which almost doubles down on the negative perception in the first place.
Yes. And there is the other angle, that men that are compassionate and kind and gentle are ridiculed and not allowed to be that.
They're literally called effeminate.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think,
which the ancient Greeks would have found rolling in their graves. Geez, they called the barbarians the ones who were disrespectful. But anyways,
so that part of them is not allowed to exist in the society we have currently, and we're kind of missing out.
Yeah.
So my husband asked me one time. He goes, "How does that feel to know that some people look at you and don't see that you're equal?" And I'm like, I'm not worried about it. I said, when it comes to that, if I feel like I'm being discriminated against, I'll stand up for myself.
Right.
But systemically, I can only do so much. I was the second person in the building, second woman in the building to be hired to drive a truck, though. And they had to pay me, equally. So there's another thing. They had to pay me equally because the way their system was set up. It was based on which route I had, and that was based on my seniority, my time at the company, and how much I sold, the commission. So they could not discriminate. They would have had to broken their own rules. Not saying other stuff didn't happen, but just saying couldn't do it on the pay level.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I can't believe is not enforced more widely. It's beyond me.
Well, discrimination. Goes on different levels.
Because it's difficult to prove. Like it's illegal to discriminate against somebody based on their sex. But I mean, like sometimes like they just can make up another reason. Well, she was late in the last 10 minutes, so we fired her. That kind of thing.
I was about to say the data shows on average they're earning less, and that's not just out of magic.
Right.
Well, I was blessed to have a job that I didn't punch a clock for 25 years.
That is very
unless
cool.
I care about it, I'm always late. And I was early here, so that tells you I care.
Exactly. You're very prompt. So I mean the thing, and again going back like with comparing it to like the socialist schools and the differences and stuff like that, like feminism has like different waves. They call them waves. First, second, third. I think we're on the fourth wave now, and I couldn't describe each one for you, but I've interviewed.
I took a class on it.
Okay. I interviewed people from the Deep Green Resistance on the Green Party show many times, and they're an environmental group essentially, but they're also radical feminists. And the wave of radical feminism is anti-trans. And I was like, wait, what? I was and like big time. I'm like, okay. I remember the first time I interviewed them, that never came up. It never crossed my radar. And I was kind of following up, just like listening to videos of them otherwise. And one of them was by Derek Jensen, who's a founder of the Deep Green Resistance. And he was talking against trans. And it took about 3 minutes into the show where I was like, wait, what? I'm like, I couldn't figure out where are you going with this? And finally they sort of explicitly said it. I'm like, what? Where does this come from? Where's this coming from? And it just comes down to they just think, men are men, women are women, and that's it. And then they, it has this a similar sort of the logic of racism to it, where a couple of African Americans did bad things, therefore all black people are bad. It's well, look at this, prisoner in California who identified as a woman, though they were a man, got transferred to a female prison and killed one of the women in there. Therefore, all trans people are bad. I'm like, whoa, stop. That is not a rational conclusion that you're drawing. Okay, nobody thinks that's okay. That this person got killed. Okay, that's not the issue. Okay, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if you will. And I know plenty of women, highly educated PhDs and stuff that identify as feminists, and they're not having it with the radical feminists. The radical feminists have like marginalized themselves within the feminist community. Do you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, there's a significant amount of infighting, to say the least, on all levels, and I would say the sort of core happens to be between academics in general, people who are actually in university, actually studying this in university, and J.K. Rowling and her fan base. That's pretty much the sort of main media sphere, and everybody just kind of bubbles down and reacts to it as you get sort of smaller and smaller and more specific per community.
Right.
So
exactly.
and especially from what I learned, and I couldn't recite everything that I learned, of course. It's been about 4 years since I took that class, but it was just completely ahistorical to the ideology and sort of the principle of how a lot of those justifications came in the first place. The whole point of it was that to get women could like the best possible rights, to not define them by their bodily capabilities. So like that just doesn't make sense. And not only that, but it's just ahistorical, because throughout history, no other culture in history has ever been this strict or cared this much. Like, not until the modern times. There are modern cultures in the world that are even more conservative on that than America. But even if you look to those cultures, especially when you look like in North Africa and stuff like that, historically they were, again, same thing, didn't really care or incredibly liberal about it. At least compared to, what we define as liberal modern day.
Well, and I would also say that while they have us fighting amongst ourselves, the billionaires are running away with everything. And, women had to fight to get not even equal rights, just to get a foot in the door. And so did Black people, and Native Americans are still getting screwed over. And like, why do we want to keep dividing ourselves? Just freaking live and let live. Like, what is your problem? I don't understand. Like,
divide and conquer is the classic tool of the oppressor, and we fall for it every time.
And I remember having posting this on Facebook probably a couple of years ago, and one of the people from Deep Green Resistance spoke in about I think she just brought up the prisoner in California thing. And I said, look, okay, the let live and let live, like you just said, Edie. I'm like, if you're pro-choice, why is anybody pro-choice? Well, because it's the woman's body. I'm like, right, that's it. That applies to a multitude of other things too.
Yes,
like somebody who wants to transition, it's their business. Like, if for no other reason. Okay, if you can't get to the point of supporting them, then just walk away. Okay, you don't need to go after them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
what about the children? The children have parents and doctors. Don't just relax. Okay,
if you're wasting your energy doing that, you're not focusing on the things that are really wrong.
Right.
And then they try to give their 2 cents on deep scientific thoughts, and then end up intentionally spreading misinformation, or sometimes not even knowing that they're the most common thing I'll hear all the time is that, oh my gosh, they're cutting the penises off of little boys and stuff like that. I'm like, there's not a single case in American history of someone under 18 getting that surgery. That isn't offered.
No.
That's not even that doesn't exist. No. You're complaining about a phenomenon of zero.
Yes, you're exactly.
And again, the sort of backtracking to feminism, I think the main gripe that people are starting to have with the radical feminists is that, statistically speaking, us trans folk are not a significant part of the population. Okay, so really, we don't have a significant effect on it.
I said this on one of my shows, exactly that. I said, in order for something to be a massive problem, it has to be happening on a massive scale. In America, it's 0.08% of the population, and that might even be a little high. Okay, and it's not here to undermine or take away anybody's struggles or steal anybody's thunder, but that is not distributed as a statistical distribution. That is not a problem, guys. Okay, it's not.
And when you go to the healthcare insurance industry, about 70,000 people a year die from lack of insurance, and that's not even counting. Who knows how many aren't even reported? Just stuff. So let's do this.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the Utah mayor was. Yeah. But there was a governor of Utah who unfortunately got overridden by the sort of state house and stuff like that. But they were trying to pass an anti-trans thing, and he was a Republican, and he voted it down because they said we have like 1 or 2 trans people in the whole state. Who cares? And ultimately, unfortunately, they overruled him with the majority, but still.
Right.
So
At least
what,
we know
what are
that
they
there's
trying to
one
do? Just
reason.
make them all go to California or something?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, that's At least Illinois has become a safe state to be in for a lot of people, which is nice.
Yeah, that's true. And Carbondale especially.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, well, how about there's just 2 more I want to talk about, and then because I don't want to keep you guys too long. How about personal and global responsibility? We encourage individuals to act to improve their personal well-being and, at the same time, to enhance ecological balance and social harmony. We seek to join with people and organizations around the world to foster peace, economic justice, and the health of the planet. I will say this in regards to that the Green Party, as far as I know, is the only international political party. We're in like 72 countries or something like that. So, but if you'd like to speak to the personal and global responsibility, because it reminds me of the Libertarian Party that would stop at personal.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're personally responsible to come. 100% you are. What about anything else? Are you responsible for your community and at least your participation in the community in the world? Generally speaking, I think most of them would say no, and that would be sad. Go ahead.
You want to go first?
No, you go.
Oh my gosh, no, because I just lost my train of thought. I had my train of thought and then I just forgot it. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
We encourage individuals
Libertarians
act to improve their personal well-being,
personal and global responsibility.
Yes, personal global responsibility. So basically, the thing that I will constantly point back to is that, how do I put this? Gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Camaraderie and respect for people overseas and understanding their struggle always makes you more powerful, even if we were in an isolated society, because as someone who's read up on Japanese history a little bit recently, you will find that people that went over to India and understood Buddhism ended up being political powerhouses and being able to actually give a lot of rights for the feudal people of Japan at the time. And so we just constantly see in history, if you go to other people, understand their struggles, or even just how they understand the world on like a personal moral way, it expands your horizons and makes you think about problems in a different way. And not just that, but when you consistently take up other people's struggles when you had no meaning to, they will constantly return that favor and return that love to you. So it's a constant give back and forth. And in fact, for anybody who's sort of like me and vehemently anti-Zionist, that's sort of unfortunately the relationship that the military industrial complex and Zionists sort of have, where they sort of keep giving to each other. And we've got to counter that with something a little bit deeper, not just on that, but when it comes to ecology too, and human rights as well. Because when Putin starts breaking international law and stuff like that, then that also gives us and our allies chances to start doing the same. And then we as citizens are the ones who are always victimized. You know what I'm saying? It's very unlikely that the next American president is going to be a victim of some of the new technology they're testing on the battlefield right now. But any of us could easily be that. So,
well, and I also read that a lot of our police force is getting sent over to Israel to be trained by the IDF.
Yes.
Come back and use those tactics here. So if you think what happens in Palestine doesn't matter, it's coming to your neighborhood soon. Like
your neighborhood near you.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like the last part where it's talking about, like the global peace and justice and equality. Well, if we're all like that, which I didn't have anything planned for this, but if we're all like that, it's better for everyone. Your personal responsibility, take care of yourself. Don't take too much. Don't take too little. Like, try to be healthy. But the system also has to work, which it doesn't, which is why everybody's suffering. But then multiply that around the world, and we've got a great place to live.
Yeah.
That's very broad. Rising tide lifts all boats.
The rising tide lifts all boats. That's right. Exactly. Well, okay. Let's segue into the.
Own the boat and the water and the.
You start throwing people out of the boat because it's yours.
Titanic.
So okay, that's a nice segue to number 4, which is nonviolence. What do you think about that one?
Nonviolence is, well, for one, it's practical just given the system that we're under right now. I can't think of too many times in recent history. If we go a little bit further back in history, I'm sure people could debate me a bit more on that. But just going ahead and punching people in the face and going ahead and breaking shit, sure, it might feel cathartic, but very seldomly does it accomplish much. You typically need to have massive numbers that can economically bear their weight, and those are the things that tend to be successful. So basically committing that also means that they have nothing on you. You know what I'm saying? They cannot. You also get the empathy of a lot of other people, even if they're not in the same ideological camp as you per se. So it just has a lot of advantages, and not just that, but morally, it's very consistent with a lot of the other principles of social justice and grassroots democracy like that. It's the only way to where we can get those things for everybody.
Right.
So that's how
and
I
this well, that's good. And this is addressing like the more, I think, like government and militaries and war and stuff like that, more than it is like individuals. I mean, I know like
we were talking about that earlier, about how the industrial complex and how that gets used overseas comes back home and stuff like that. And not just that, but it also wastes our government resources, because we're sending, I forgot how many millions, but in the doubles of billions of dollars to Israel since October 7th, and several billion also
21.
Ukraine as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, like, chump change for people who are the victims of the hurricane in the Appalachians, same with the fires in California. I mean, heck, way back during the Democratic primary of 2020, Tom Steyer, I do have to give him credit, when he was asked what's the biggest threat to the military, he said climate change, not Russia or China. Because if you look at where all our bases are and what affects American civilians and stuff like that and threatens their lives, it's flooding, it's wildfires, it's hurricanes, it's a lot of stuff like that that's on the rise. So as always, it's always very interconnected.
Yeah, no, the symbiotic relationship of the entire planet is a very important thing to remember, that everything is interconnected. It's a chaos theory, or the butterfly effect. I don't know if you heard of that.
Yes. I love Jurassic
mathematical fun things. Yes, right. Exactly.
And the books too, not just the movies.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. Like Jeff Goldblum's character was a mathematician, I think he called himself, or whatever.
Chaos mathematician.
So like basically like the butterfly effect is, it's a terrible movie, by the way, with Ashton Kutcher, but if you go, I just like, it just ripple effects across the globe. That's a little more hypothetical than real, but I mean there is something to it. Things are connected for sure.
Actions that go throughout history.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want my nonviolent theory?
Yes.
Well, I bring it all the way home to my plate.
To what?
I don't eat meat.
Oh yeah, okay. You bring it all the way back home to your plate.
Nothing dies that goes into my body, and I'm perfectly healthy. I don't take any prescriptions. I just, I'm basically a healthy person. So I start there. That's my personal responsibility. I decided not to have violence in the food that I eat. And it also benefits you in, the way they raise cows and things like that. Like, it's just chock full of hormones it's just awful. And then the stress hormone of how they're killed. They're terrified. All that cortisol goes into the meat. You eat that. It's having our children develop sooner. And then all the way out to, learning how to do, I don't have any formal training, but conflict resolution seems to kind of be my thing. I've stopped the police from being called a couple of times at protests.
Oh, that's great.
I just go up and talk to people. And I think it comes from like that place, the same place where I don't want the violence. So I see it like bubbling up, and I'm like, what if I just go talk to them? I remember in San Diego on New Year's Day, we were mad at like CNN or somewhere, someplace, NBC, someplace downtown. We were going to go sing carols for Bernie, and the security guard comes out there and says, "You're not allowed to be here. This is private property." And everybody's like, "We're standing on the sidewalk." And so the protesters are all getting, and he's all, "I'm going to call the police." And I'm like, "Hi." My name's Edie. What's yours? We're out here fighting for your rights too, and we're going to be here for about this long. We're going to make a couple laps, and we're going to go. Okay. It was over.
So there you go. There you go.
Yeah. And then it keeps growing. It's like, and then that creates understanding. The same thing happened a few weeks ago at our local ceasefire for Palestine here in Carbondale. The train had stopped on the tracks. The people that were in traffic couldn't tell. They were mad at us because it was our normal time to be at our protests, and they were blaming us. So I'm like, they're over there. Let's go over there and protest. They're a block away. Let's just go do that. And this guy was just screaming at one of the organizers, turning red and yelling at him, not listening, blah, blah, blah. And, you get that. Sometimes you kind of react back. But I have to hand it to the organizer. He was doing a great job. But I get it. And I'm like, hey, what's happening? I'm like acting all innocent. And then I just looked at him. I said, are you going to keep yelling or do you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, the prevention of violence is a noble art, for sure. And I have a philosophy degree. I'm a philosopher. I'm a man of reason, and well above and beyond violence. I will say I leave some moral room for self-defense. If somebody grabs me or something, that's not going to go well for them. Like if I see somebody getting hurt physically, that's not going to go well for the attacker. That kind of thing. And like I remember having this discussion with a libertarian friend because they're very not pro nonviolence. They were speaking out against Antifa. I'm like, what's wrong with Antifa? It's like, well, they go up and punch Nazis. I'm like, yeah.
What your point is?
Yeah, that is direct action in action, quite literally.
Now I meant that somewhat comically, but I'm like, oh, is it really wrong to punch a Nazi? Is it really? I don't know. No, I mean it probably is, but it's hard to feel bad for Nazis.
Well, yeah. and I just want to say, and I'm like that. The one thing that will get me on somebody quicker than anything is somebody being mean to an animal, especially a dog. I'm a dog lover.
Yeah. That too. You bet.
And I was out and about on a Saturday in San Diego again because I was outside all the time. Here I'm inside all the time. But this well-dressed man had his dog on a leash and he was holding her up like this, and she's like,
"Oh my!"
And I wish I would have been calm for just like another 20 seconds because if I would have got closer to him, that dog would have been mine.
Right.
I would have stole her. I would have like, nope, this is my dog now.
Yep, sorry.
And I just started shaming him. I started screaming. There's all these people walking around. Like, it's a Saturday afternoon in the main strip of Ocean Beach in San Diego. It's busy. And I just start screaming at him. Then everybody starts looking at him like, y'all didn't see this already? So he goes around the corner trying to run for me. And I'm like, can you not afford a harness for that dog? What's wrong with you? I'm just like, anything I can think of to be super just confrontational,
Yeah, no, for sure. And shaming people and amongst others is actually probably a pretty good approach sometimes. No, I'm serious. Like just people succumb to peer pressure. And a lot of times that's bad. I agree, but sometimes it could be a force used for good.
They deserve to be called out. Like, oh my
right, to be called
God,
out. That's probably better than shaming them, calling them out.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, like every tool in the book.
Like every tool in the book.
Used for good and evil.
Exactly.
That's true.
Reality's visual until. What is?
I was using it for good.
You were using it for good, exactly.
Protect that doggy, and like I said, if I would have waited a few more seconds, the dog would have come home with me. I would have fought him for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And real quick before we go, going back to like the vegetarian thing and like the animal agricultural practices that we have nowadays that are just utterly horrifying and clearly immoral and wrong because there is amongst all the different schools of ethics and philosophy, one of them is based on suffering and the minimizing of suffering merely, but none of the other ones that are even like logically competitive to that would deny that as part of one of their tenets. Meaning, like, even the ones that think that, like, suffering or the minimization of suffering is not the core of ethics, but you'll always have to include it. Where, like, utilitarianism is the philosophy of, like, that's what morality is the minimizing of suffering, and that's it. But so it doesn't include rights and stuff like that. Whatever, philosophy gets very complicated. But
I know.
Yes, Yes, you're Greek. I mean, these are your forefathers.
Well, not just that, but I've been on a nerdy deep dive for my D&D world building, and it's all been religious and philosophy and Gnosticism and Kabbalah and learning about that
beautiful,
and all that
dude.
sort of world.
Oh, wow.
We need to hang out because that is
show him your
all
shirt.
that's all my stuff right there. This is the Cthulhu mythos from H.P.
Oh,
Lovecraft.
heck yeah. That was the last video I just watched, Esoterica's video on Lovecraft and his influence.
Esoterica is so cool. That guy knows everything.
I just found his channel about 2 months ago because he did an interview with this one anarchist YouTuber who I love because he made a video that was so specific. Let me just give you the title. Taiwanese Indigenous Christian Anarchism. That is so specific, but this channel called Veritas et Caritas did an interview with Esoterica. Yeah. And so he's a awesome university guy from Taiwan, sort of comes from the anarchist political dispositions like myself, although I think he's Christian anarchist specifically, if I recall correctly. I'm more on the eco side, where I tend to focus on, wildlife and stuff like that.
Dorothy Day, have you heard of her?
Yes.
She's the Catholic, and she's about to be sainted if she hasn't already, but they're trying to find a miracle. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we obviously have a lot more in common than I thought, Alexandria. We need to hang out because I've been into that stuff for decades. So that'd be really cool. We should talk about that.
Oh gosh, we'll have you join us with Joe Kopsik if we ever get to county meetings more annually.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. Joe and I have been in communication recently about some things. He might be coming on the show with a friend of his soon, talking about vaccines. He's seems to be an anti-vaxxer, and I am not. So we'll have to talk about that. Anyway,
I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that argument because I just had COVID at December, early beginning of January, and the whole household has been vaccinated. We got the double shot, not the one where you only take one shot, and we got double boosted, and the whole house got sick.
Yeah.
And I got hit pretty hard, and I would still say, even though I do feel like I kind of got gypped off by the booster shots, I'm not going to lie about that. I would still advocate for getting the vaccine. So I would love.
Vaccines are not they're not an absolute guarantee that nobody's going to get sick.
Yeah. Like I can see some nuance.
The probability that you'll get sick, and that's the best.
Exactly. The most empathy I could give is if people say, "Man, if you look at how little the booster shot held people, maybe we should have done better." Yeah, okay.
Sure.
But that's still not a good enough argument. When you look at the vaccine versus unvaccinated, there's just too much of a statistical gap to argue it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. And you're saying all the right things. And being anti-vax and being like, I have problems with how COVID rolled out are two very different topics.
And this sort of goes back to the decentralization, which is that this should be a conversation with people and their doctors. You know what I'm saying? Every doctor should be able to talk to somebody and say, okay, here are the things I think you need vaccines for because X, Y, and Z. And then I think a lot of where the negative feelings come from is when people feel like they're not being heard. I watched an interview or sort of a debate between 4 groups of pro-vaxxers and anti-vaxxers. And the common consistent theme was that anti-vaxxers either had someone personally or knew someone close enough to them who was part of that small group statistically that did have like a negative reaction or something like that. And they felt either disrespected or that they had been lied to or miffed by that. And so it's healing that relationship and, education and stuff like that. I don't think passing laws to force everybody to get vaccinated is going to help fight the anti-vaxxers.
Mandating it is not a good idea. That's authoritarianism. That's not
we need to actually win the hearts and make the logical cases, which is not easy. It's exhausting and it's frustrating. So
I think it comes down to trust. We don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. We don't trust the healthcare industry. And I
lost a lot of trust from this. Not a lot, but a little bit.
I was playing Trivial Pursuit with my son the other day, and this game is like 5 years old, and it said on average, how much time do you get talking to your doctor? 2 minutes, 8 minutes, 13 minutes before they interrupt you.
20 seconds.
Those 2 minutes. You might have like 2 minutes to try to get out what's happening. Like they can diagnose you in that fast. And that's the industry telling them, get in there, hurry up, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no, there's no doubt.
So you feel like it's being forced on you. And I get that. Like, I think a lot of the pushback was, I don't want to be forced to do anything. It goes back to the bodily autonomy. Same with, pro-choice. Same with
trans and all that other stuff.
And you can do whatever you want to with your body. I'm not putting that in my body because I don't think it's good for me.
Right.
And if I have to do other things to like protect the people around me, okay.
Right.
But that inside, no. And
yeah, no, for sure.
I took the vaccine, and but I think I had COVID before it was popular, before it was in vogue. I had it in December of 2019.
The SARS virus has been around a long time. COVID was merely the SARS virus has been around a long time. That's nothing new. The COVID was a particular type and strain of SARS and that kind of thing. And again, how COVID rolled out, how the solution to the virus rolled out was ridden with problems. There's no doubt. It happened very quickly. It was not prepared. There was too much centralization. I know of I remember doctors in certain areas say hey, I can actually get tests from this company overseas. I have access to them, but the CDC said, no, you can't. You have to wait till we allow you to.
And the pharmaceutical industry was in there to make money instead of our government forcing them to do it in such a way that would just make sure it made it to everyone if they wanted it.
Yeah,
they were in there to get rich. Just it all comes back to the money.
But COVID, always follow money.
Yep.
But COVID is not. What happened with COVID is not a statistically relevant example of vaccinations generally speaking. Okay, we got rid of polio and smallpox and okay, vaccinations are considered very, very safe generally speaking. And again, you're not going to get absolutes from the empirical sciences. It doesn't work. You get absolutes from math. You don't get it from observational sciences. It doesn't happen. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I've studied epistemology and I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy of science. I know what science is. And I know its limitations, but it's still the best we have. That's it.
I can't think of any significant lifestyle choice that isn't basically checking the numbers and making a risk. Everything is fraught with risk, whether that even be your diet or exercise habit. Everything, even if it's, what I'm saying, we have to.
Sitting in a chair.
Us to judge the statistics. Yeah. And
your subconscious is reasoning that it probably won't break.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally your subconscious is going, it's probably safe. Go ahead. You just don't see it. It's inductive. It's inductive reasoning. There's two general types of reasoning. There's deductive, which is math and logic. There's inductive, which is all the rest. And deduction.
What is empirical?
Empirical means through the senses, through the bodily senses.
So
it means you get the data external. You get the data externally from the external world, from nature, whatever else, from observations, and then that's your data set, and and then you analyze it from there. Deductive, or it's called a priori reasoning, is like mathematics and logic. You really you think about the concepts, and then you come up with the truths from there. You don't have to observe anything in nature. It's fascinating stuff. I love fun. Fucking love fun. Anyway, sorry. Trying to keep this family friendly. Anyway, okay, look, we're almost at an hour. I was hopefully going to keep you for half hour because I know it's nighttime and everything. But you're good. I had a great time talking to you guys. It was fantastic. Always
likewise. I'm glad we had you on too. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was just
more the merrier. It's always more people helps me get my own mind going.
Here, or is that not allowed?
What's that?
Can I plug some Green Party stuff on here? Or is that
yeah, of course, absolutely.
Plug away.
So everybody, please join the Green Party of Illinois, or the Illinois Green Party. Sorry, I do that sometimes. I've been writing too many things today. It's ilgp.org. To be a member, you can be a member for as little as $10 a month or $12 if you're on a low income budget for your whole year. And we are getting ready to do the Healing Us movie screening. It's a documentary from some of the people that were in the March for Medicare for All are featured in that movie. Scott Denoyers lost his son over a $20 copay. He couldn't afford to get his medication. He glued himself to the steering wheel and drove off a bridge. Over $20.
Holy shit.
He's in that movie, and it's narrated by Susan Sarandon. So keep an eye out.
Say the name of the movie again, please.
Healing Us or Healing US. It's like healing.
So the US are capitalized, but it's kind of a play on both. Sure, that's very clever.
I'm gonna have to ask the people because they're going to be on my show on the 28th. Kenny Ballantyne, the director, and Dr. Jarvis, the executive producer, are going to be on the Green live stream on the 28th.
Ooh, I'm looking
Talk
forward
about
to that
it.
one.
What time is it at?
Huh?
What time?
Oh, 7 p.m. Tuesday nights.
Okay,
at,
cool.
Illinois, the official Illinois Green Party on YouTube.
Oh, this is your Tuesday night show. Okay, cool. So I actually scheduled somebody for my show 6 to 7 on that same date, so I'll be able to stop
7.
that one.
So after you watch this, come watch us.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool.
And the biggest news is we just rolled out general strike for Gaza.
Yes, every 7th of every month, starting in February. February 7th is going to be the first one. Also, if
you're blocking.
I haven't heard about it at this point. Sorry, somebody's trying to call.
Yep.
The 20th, January 20th, is a big protest. Stop the Trump agenda. February 7th is the first monthly annual strike for Gaza. So show up to that. Everybody who can make it to the city. We're all the Green Party people that can make it there are going to be there. And then January 20th is the big Stop the Trump rally. If you haven't heard about it, obviously Green Party people will be there. Over 40 organizations I counted are going to be there. Arab American Action Network, SJO, so many groups. Yes. I mean, if there's any advocacy group that exists in Chicagoland, chances are they're probably there.
Well, I just want to address some of the criticisms that we've had about the general strike. We're asking for 1 day a month, and we're rolling it out as buy nothing on that day and share the message until we can grow it to the point where people could stay home from work and school. So don't think we're expecting you to do this on your own, okay? Because that's not
everybody obviously make your own decision. I'm in a position where I should be able to still pass the semester and still protest those days. But if you're not in that position like me, then by no means be reasonable. You have to stay alive and healthy in order to help other people. Always remember that.
Right. That's very, very good point. Yeah. No, general strike. I posted probably for the last 3 years on Facebook. I mean, and nobody took me up on it, but like general strike, September, whatever. Like a Monday, a 3-day weekend, like don't go to work and don't buy anything. And like you will shut down the economy and we'll get whatever we want. So there's a general strike, I think in the 30s or something like that shut down like over 30% of the economy. It was devastating. They worked, but it's hard to get like, 10 million people on the same page.
That takes years of planning.
But we are working to do that. And I think people are ready. Good. And Gaza can't wait. I'm sorry, you guys.
That's true. We were talking earlier about not to get under the rabbit hole, but solidarity and national solidarity. I keep seeing more and more videos of Greek artists that were talking about Gaza. Now they're talking about it. It's on all their music videos, all their concerts. People are starting to be more outspoken about it worldwide.
Yeah, it keeps getting pushed off the front page, but we can't let it be. There's too much wrong. But this is something that's super urgent. So,
well, the first one, Netanyahu has a international arrest warrant, and also like there are a multitude of countries, mostly the countries in the Middle East, but that aren't allowing Israeli citizens into their countries as tourists. Now, including Australia. Australia said, "Nope, sorry."
Yep, good on them. By the way, we should be doing
it's for sure. Like it's just Israel's utterly just screwing its history, its future. I mean, anyway, okay. Very cool.
Well, that was one of the demands. So that can I just go over the demands really quick? I'm not going to get the wording exactly right, but it's for the U.S. to enact an immediate Israeli embargo and immediate humanitarian aid of all kinds, like doctors, food, whatever they need, and to honor the ICC arrest warrants. Those are
that's. I mean, those are all good ones. Okay. We'll see.
Radical. We want to follow international law. Like,
how dare you?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And basic human morality. Like it's just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
This notion that governments have like some sort of like moral exception that nobody else has. Like, we get to blow up people and kill people, but if you do it, you go to jail. Like, what are you not a person? Are you stupid? Anyway, this is why one of the main reasons I'm an anarchist too is like, morality applies to everything. Sorry. There's if everybody just acted more like we're more rational, reasonable, morally centered, you wouldn't need governments because people would know how to behave towards other people. Anyway, So, you know.
True.
Anyway, okay. Thank you so much, Edie Arndell and Alexandria Keating-Sofiakis. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Both Green Party members here in Illinois, doing a great job. Keep it up, and make sure you tune in to Edie Arndell's Green Party show on Tuesday, 7 to 8-ish p.m., though you go over a bunch, which is great, which means it's an interesting conversation. I love that. Like this one, because we're over an hour. So it's always a good sign. You know, when you're on like the 35-minute mark, you're like, so what else do you want to talk about? That's a bad sign. You know, that's never happened to me. But so, no, I'm just kidding. But all right, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Keep fighting the good fight. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. See you next time. Guys, wait, don't leave yet. Hold on.